This presentation will discuss the mythology and religion of ancient Greece. Studying this topic connects historians to the past by reflecting the beliefs of the ancient Greeks, as well as providing a way for us to understand how they saw the world and how they interacted with each other. We will also be making connections between ancient and modern polytheism.
One of the most interesting ways to look at ancient Greek society is by looking at their gods and goddesses. By observing how the depiction of those gods and goddesses of Greece changed, we can gain an understanding of the values of the ancient Greeks. Let us use the goddess Aphrodite as an example. Most scholars agree that Aphrodite is based on a 3,000-year-old Sumerian goddess called Inanna, who would later be known as the Babylonian goddess Ishtar. The name Aphrodite is likely derived from the name Habrodita, the Lady of Hebrod. One of the similarities between Ishtar and Aphrodite are that both are goddesses of love and sexuality. Furthermore, while most would not associate Aphrodite as a goddess of war like Ishtar was, some city-states like Sparta, Thebes, and Cyprus honored her as also a goddess of war. Another interesting thing is the divide in how the gods and goddesses of Greece were depicted in things like statues versus things like paintings and pottery. Pottery and paintings tend to depict the gods and goddesses of Greece as being closer to a human being, while statues tend to turn the gods and goddesses of Greece as being closer to a human being, while statues tend to turn the gods and goddesses of Greece into what one would assume is an idealized version of what someone could be. For example, compare this pottery painting of Poseidon with this statue of what is believed what someone could be. For example, compare this pottery painting of Poseidon with this statue of what is believed to either be Poseidon or Zeus. A theory I have is that statues are usually made for highly important things, while pottery and paintings are often used for everyday purposes by normal people. It would therefore make sense for them to change how grand something is depending on its use. The theory is that those who depict for them to change how grand something is depending on its use. The theory is that those who depict the gods as being closer to the average human are more likely to be poorer, working class people, while those who depict the gods in a more idealistic
The depiction of Greek gods and goddesses goes even beyond the realm of the Greeks and our history of them. As a society, we continue to use Greek mythology and its stories in our modern day world in various ways in a continuous depiction ourselves. We see influences of these famous gods and goddesses every day through sports, art, common trends, etc. Let's look at sports, for example. One specific influence from Greek mythology falls with the Greek goddess Nike. Nike, the goddess of victory, was depicted as being a strong, powerful figure in which other Greeks went to in order to gain strength and speed to be victorious in whatever ways they desired. This depiction continues to grow today as one of the largest billion-dollar sports brands to exist takes the company name of Nike. They create products and media that enforce the idea that their supplies are the best, and they are endorsed by strong, successful athletes that continue this strong and victorious symbol. Interestingly enough, the company is resembled by the iconic Nike swoosh, which not so coincidentally resembles the wing of Nike, the Greek goddess. Besides sports, which have numerous symbols and modern-day depictions of its own, we can also find modern-day symbols of Greek influences in more serious matters such as the field of medicine. This example regards Asclepius, the ancient god of medicine. Not only is he known as the Greek god of medicine in general, but his story is represented in a medicinal symbol that is still utilized to the day in the medical field, which is the rod of Asclepius. Asclepius was the son of Apollo and raised by Centaur Chiron, who taught him all he knew about medicine and healing arts. With his newfound knowledge, Asclepius quickly became the symbol for a master healer after he was able to heal and save one of the most divine beings in Greek culture, which was the snake. If you look at our modern day symbol, you can see that the rod is wrapped with a snake and represents the idea of healing and doctors. It makes sense that medical workers in the field overall uses this symbol as it depicts the idea of master healing, which is the biggest goal of our medical field. Overall, the depiction of gods and goddesses were the bread and butter of Greek mythology, and it continues to grow and remain even in our Western modern society. Whether we see it in major brand names, architectural structures, or more serious areas like the medical field, I think that our modern society will continue to use Greek mythology influences for a very long time, as it has almost become romanticized in our modern Western culture to use these iconic stories and gods or goddesses for.
One common theme in Greek mythology is the idea of the kalon kakon woman, which is translated to beautiful evil thing, and appears in the stories of Medea, Helen of Troy, Pandora, Medusa, Circe, and others. Each of these women were extraordinarily beautiful, but in these myths their extraordinary beauty also gave them the great potential for chaos. Helen is the most famous of them, as her beauty was the reason she was kidnapped and taken to Troy, which sparked the Trojan War. Pandora released all evil into the world. Circe lured men to her island with her beauty and sexuality, including Odysseus, but tended to turn them into pigs and keep them captive there. Medusa's beauty is so tempting to the god Poseidon that he rapes her in Athena's temple, which leads to her being wrongly cursed by the goddess and made to turn people to stone with her eyes and have snakes for hair, all to take away her chaotic beauty. Medea, like all these other women, was beautiful and therefore taken advantage of by the men around her, including her husband Jason. She ends up murdering her family. These myths strongly reflect ancient Greek society. When women are the main characters in myths or plays, they are most often bringing about chaos. Their beauty gives them power, but that power causes themselves and those around them to fall. In a society that readily accepts these stories, were women anything more than a pretty face? And was even their pretty face, their one asset in a world meant for men, a moral failing? Was there any way for a woman to win?
For many years, people from all backgrounds and at all corners of the earth have been trying to make sense of the world around them. They developed religions to help answer the many mysteries of our purpose and our futures. This desire to understand the future and our fates was seen greatly in the ancient Greek tradition of oracles. The most prominent figures in ancient Greek religion were the priestesses and the oracles, in which both roles could be held by women. Oracles were fortune and storytellers who would give prophecies intended to help people understand their fates and make sense of the world. Both wealthy and everyday men would consult oracles to help them. They were thought of as people's links to communicating with the gods and understanding their will. One of the most famous of the oracles in ancient Greece that I would like to discuss was the Oracle of Delphi. Delphi was a religious sanctuary in Greece that many would travel from far distances in order to consult with the oracle and find solutions to their problems. The Delphic oracle was the priestess Pythia, and was believed to receive prophecies straight from the god Apollo while sitting in a dreamlike state. People would pay money and give offerings for the sharing of a prophecy. Other influential oracles for ancient Greece were the oracle of Dion at Dodona, as well as oracles in Didyma, Corinth, and the island of Delos. People in ancient Greece wouldn't just consult oracles to talk to the gods, but also to connect with the spirits of the dead. One of the sites for the oracles of the dead was the river of Acheron. As religions have evolved throughout time, their goals and purpose remain the same. People seek to understand the mysteries of the world around them. They wish to understand their fates and the reasons humans were placed on this earth. Through religion, people hope to find the reasons for the misfortunes and the events in their life, as well as consider the steps they must take that will take them to meet that fate. In ancient Greece, oracles played a major role in answering and providing peace of mind pertaining to these mysteries.
As mentioned previously, women were able to serve in a religious capacity as priestesses, and it was an incredible honor to be chosen. They were selected from the aristocracy, and some are known to have served for life. These women had higher social and legal status than the typical woman. Notably, they did not need a male representative in legal matters. They also received privileges such as salaries, a share of sacrifices, additional payment for rites performed outside of her official duties, housing, special seating at the theater, and burial at the public expense. These positions held significant political and religious power. For example, the priestess of Hera at Argos presided over the Heraion and found herself in charge of Hera's most important cult center in the entire Greek world. The married woman who took the office was responsible for representing the goddess in different fertility rites, as well as carrying out other rituals and worship. The priestess of Athena Polias in Athens was tasked with carrying out the major religious duties relating to the divine protection of the polis, including caring for the cult image of Athena. She was considered to hold the most important religious position in the city, and she also presided over the Panathenaea. The priestess of Demeter at Eleusis, who played a major role in the Eleusinian mysteries, had a job that is not as well understood as those of the other women, due to the secretive nature of the cult. However, we do know the office was open to women with children. We also know she represented Demeter in reenactions of the myth of Persephone's capture, and then her eventual return to Olympus. The priestess helped channel Demeter, who was said to reveal the truth behind life after death. Her role, as well as the roles of other priestesses, was one that was vital in connecting mortals with the divine. These pictures show an image reconstruction of the Heraion of Argos, where the priestess of Hera carried out her ritual duties, the Erechtheion in Athens, where Athena Polias was worshipped, at the spot where she defeated Poseidon for patronage over the city, and the excavation site at Eleusis, where initiates participated in the mysteries. Festivals played a major role in ancient Greek religious life. One of the biggest festivals was the Panathenaea. It took place every 4 years and was held in Athens in honor of the goddess Athena. This festival brought together people from all over Attica and was only considered to be second to the Olympic Games. Worshippers made sacrifices and held a procession to the Parthenon, where the girls who had helped to weave Athena's newest peplos laid it on the statue. There is also a celebration during the festival called the Panathenaic Games, which involves sports and music competitions, and the winners were given amphorae filled with valuable olive oil. The festival involving the Eleusinian mysteries was also a major cause of gathering and worship in the Greek world. It was held each year and lasted for 9 days. It represented the cycle of life, centering around Persephone's descent into the underworld, Demeter's search for her, and then, finally, Persephone's yearly ascension back to Olympus to reunite with her mother. It was a huge cause for celebration for the initiates who had the mysteries of life and death revealed to them during the span of the festival. A third important festival, which took place in Athens, was the Great Dionysia. It was the origin of tragic, comedic, and satiric drama, and it was attended by all Athenian citizens, as well as other men from around Greece. After the poets presented their plays, all of which were centered on a specific theme, judges who had been chosen at random selected the winner. This was a time for Greeks to come together and honor Dionysus through theater, something that was already a huge part of Athenian civic life.
What is polytheism? Polytheism is the belief in or worship of more than one god. An example of polytheism most people are aware of is ancient Greek polytheism, which consists of many gods and goddesses that were worshipped and or believed in by the Greeks. Each god and goddess had a different role, and they were worshipped for different purposes. An example of this would be the goddess Aphrodite, who was worshipped in some parts of Greece as solely a goddess of love and beauty, while in other parts she was also seen as a war goddess. Knowledge and stories about Greek gods and goddesses have been passed down from poets, priests, and parents teaching their children. This information sheds light on their concept of mortal and divine realms and how they connect to each other and interact, which much of this interaction was done through worship. The worship of the gods included a powerful performative component, such as sacrifices. Athenian citizens participated in some sort of communal sacrifice at least once every 8 or 9 days to receive affirmation. Sacrifice was something that could be communal or more personal, and it could be as large as the entire city to smaller sacrifice groups. There are some modern religions that use the idea of polytheism, such as paganism, but there are many others who practice different types of religion. These different religions may have similar views to polytheism, but there are prominent world religions today that disagree with those views and instead practice monotheism. It is a challenging comparison to make. However, monotheism and polytheism both are read as structuring theories of knowledge that are just very different from each other.
There are many connections between Greek religion and the Hindu religion. Today, the Hindu religion is the most widely practiced polytheistic religion, and virtually no one practices the ancient Greek religion anymore. Some key comparisons between the two. In the Greek pantheon, 3 of their main gods are Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon. The closest gods in the Hindu religion would be Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And some of their goddesses, Zeus' wife Hera is the goddess of women, marriage, and childbirth. Vishnu's wife Lakshmi is the goddess of power, beauty, and fertility. Clearly from their attributes, you can tell that many of the goddesses, they preside over things that have to do with femininity, women, motherhood, things of that sort. Another key similarity between the two is different provinces or city-states have their own gods or goddesses that they worship. So like in Athens, they worship Athena. And in Maharashtra, where Mumbai is, they worship Vishnu. That doesn't mean that people in those areas wouldn't worship other gods. That's just their area's specific god. So today there are 1.16 billion Hindus. So a lot is the 3rd most practiced religion in the world. So polytheism is still very relevant today. There are upwards of 330 million Hindu gods and more than 400 minor Greek gods, and then there are the main 12 Greek gods. The Iliad and the Odyssey are the main textual sources on the Greek gods, where with Hinduism, the Vedas and the Upanishads are the main Hindu texts, although neither of them has a specific sacred text that all the followers must read or adhere to in any way, which for the West is kind of a hard concept to grasp sometimes because the Abrahamic religions have the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, things of that sort. So it's kind of hard sometimes for people to grasp that there are no right or wrong things to believe necessarily, People who follow those religions can really believe whatever they want, choose which gods they want to worship, which ones they don't, things of that sort. Both of the religions are used to describe the world around them, things such as wars, natural disasters, civilizations, science, and a number of other things, just like any other religion you would see. They use their religion as a way to understand the world around them and the people around them and things of that sort.
In conclusion, Greek mythology and religion had a significant impact on ancient Greece and has helped historians better understand how they saw the world and interacted within it. It continues to be included in Western society through imagery and association, and by understanding how the Greeks saw polytheism, we can also better understand the similarities between the beliefs and how worshippers today see modern polytheism.